What's up guys, Ben here from North Carolina. It's a little bit breezy at the moment, but it should lay down shortly. My plan today is to get up in the air in my A-Wing, the AirDesign EZ2, and just make a quick lap, test the air and see if it feels comfortable. If so, I'm going to try to get in my first flight on my new wing. It's the Ozone Spider 24 meter. I just received it, but I've been kiting it a little bit just to become more comfortable, and I'm hoping to get my first flight on it. Come join me in the air.
Oh wow, by this point I realized I was getting tossed around pretty good in the air, and I was on an elevator ride. I wanted to be back on the ground, but every time I approached, I could feel a lot of rotor coming over those trees. I thought I could set it down in this really large field without obstructions, but then again there are buildings that could throw off rotor as well. I thought maybe I'll try one last time to set it down in my own field. Okay, here's my final approach. Okay, glad to be down. And I thought at this point I would just kind of watch the weather and see if it may really lay down as we get closer to sunset at 5:18 p.m. If so, maybe I could jump up there and do one more quick flight. But I did not want to be back in the air under those same conditions again. Well, I estimated that the wind had laid down enough that I could give it another shot here. So looking back at the flight stats from my app, Fly Sky High, I can see that my ground speed was somewhere around 10-11 miles per hour. I typically go about 22 miles an hour on this wing, so that means my headwind was something like 12 miles an hour at this altitude.
Okay, so tonight has been a little bit disappointing. I was meaning to take up my new wing for its first flight tonight, and as soon as I got up, I could tell I would have rather been on the ground. It was, I was getting tossed around all over the place. I thought about setting it down in a farmer's field, and eventually I decided that I could probably make a landing in my field, which I was able to do. But I knew then, if I were going to go up again, I would have to wait till just before sunset when the wind had absolutely laid down as low as it would get for the day. I also knew that I wouldn't be flying my new wing. There are too many things I'm concerned about in my first flight, like checking all the lengths of the brake lines and the tip steering lines and all that stuff. And I just wasn't prepared to do that on a windy night or a night that was less favorable.
So by this altitude, I'm only penetrating at about 7 or 8 miles per hour, which means that the wind is probably about 14 miles an hour. So I was absolutely moving when I turned around on the downwind leg. soon I was making my approach to set it down again for the night.
Some bumps here. Could be turbulence, the rotor coming over these trees. Yeah. So let's see if I can get on the ground here.
There's some oscillation there, but I don't want to overreact. Maybe a slightest input, but so that's it. 2 successful flights on this evening. Conditions that were not great, and I would say flights that weren't particularly fun, but of course I learned something. It's part of my progression. I think the other interesting thing about this evening is that there was some disappointment, and that's part of this sport, right? People have failed launches, difficult landings, broken equipment. I had been highly anticipating the moment I could fly my new wing and couldn't do it on this night, so that was disappointing as well. But that's part of the sport, and you have to be ready to deal with those frustrations. Guys, thanks for joining me on this one. Make sure you come back, check out the next video.